Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories. I'm marathon swimmer and coach Shannon Keegan. In today's episode, I share more detail about my road to motherhood than I ever have out loud. Which is funny because this was supposed to be Jessica Hepburn's marathon swim story. We had a rich conversation about enjoying the journey, learning to let go, recognizing your weaknesses, accepting your tendencies, and so much more. But we acknowledged miscarriage and stillbirth, things that are taboo in daily conversation. Reading Jessica's book, 21 Miles, swimming in search of the meaning of motherhood, gave me the courage to tell my story. Her book helped me acknowledge my pain and find comfort in how I chose to heal from my losses by pursuing Project Me on my road to motherhood. But it has also helped me accept the mother, marathon swimmer, and coach that I want to be. What a gift. I hope this episode touches someone else as much as Jessica and her book have touched me. Enjoy. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you so much for being my guest today on Marathon Swim Stories. Tell me.
It's such a joy to be here, Shannon.
Tell us, what's your story?
What is my story? Well, when you ask me that question, I'm thinking, should I start at the beginning or should I start at the end?
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, I think I start at the end, and then I swam the Channel, which is my ultimate marathon swim story, in 2015. In 17 hours, 44 minutes and 30 seconds. And it changed my life completely. And I suppose then moving back, I wasn't a swimmer. Like I think people often come to a big swim like the Channel because they've swum competitively as a child, and they want to take that further when they become an adult, or they get into open water swimming, and they move on from there. And in my case, I sort of describe my journey to the Channel as being sort of part midlife crisis, part childhood dream. And the childhood dream bit, I sort of, it was definitely, I struggle with a bit because I think sort of people swimming the Channel was sort of more talked about when I was little. And I think I remember seeing it in the newspaper or something. And I wasn't actually, I loved swimming as a child, but I wasn't a very good swimmer. I didn't get picked for the school swimming team. I was like I was part of a swimming club, but everyone used to joke that breaststroke legs was my best stroke. Not even the arms, just the legs. But I remember saying to my dad, that it didn't matter that I didn't get into the school. I was trying to sort of console him, that it didn't matter that I didn't get into the school swimming team because I was going to swim the Channel one day. And then I literally didn't think about it for another 30 years. And like all I did was maybe a few lengths of breaststroke in my local pool, or swim in the sea on holiday somewhere warm. And until I got into my early 40s. And we may talk about this more, but like the midlife crisis was that I went through like a decade of unsuccessful fertility treatment, having had a diagnosis of unexplained infertility. And it is the single hardest thing that I've ever been through in my life. And I just got into my early 40s, and I felt like I'd lost a decade of my life. I'd had multiple miscarriages and ectopic pregnancy that almost took my life. And I just felt that I'd sort of given my whole life to what I call Project Baby, and I needed to do something different. And that was the moment where I turned back to this childhood dream, and I had no idea what was ahead of me. I had no idea what was involved in swimming the channel, but off I went, and it was the most remarkable journey. So that's my marathon story.
A couple marathons in there, but let's
yes, indeed.
Tell me, so tell me about approaching swimmers, because I think I'm, as a swimmer, grew up swimming, competitive swimming, all that stuff. I still, walking into a new swim team is a pretty intimidating thing. So what was it like trying to, get in with the swimming crowd?
Yeah. I distinctly remember that I have a couple of sort of episodes, let's say, that I really remember. One of which was the first thing I did is that I went to a very famous open water swimming club in the UK, which is based in London Hyde Park in the Serpentine, and they basically have nurtured more. Obviously, coming from the UK, channel swimming from England to France is sort of the most iconic marathon swim there is, really. And the Serpentine Swimming Club has nurtured more open water swimmers than any other open water swimming club in the world. And I remember I sort of Googled, as you did, went to Mr. Google and sort of said, how do I swim the channel? And found this information out. And I remember sidling down to this club, and every Saturday they hold these races for the club members. And I remember sidling up to someone who sort of looked in charge of the races and said, I want to swim the channel. Is there anyone here that I could speak to? And then they sort of introduced me to someone. And I remember thinking that so they introduced me to these really tall, strapping men, and I remember them thinking they were how nonplussed they were when I said I wanted to swim the channel. And I sort of felt I was quite bemused by that. And I think in retrospect, what I realize is that they sort of thought, oh, do you, we hear this over and over again, but we're not going to get excited until we've sort of seen whether you really are serious about this. And then that sort of feeds into another thing. After that, I was sort of, Googling, how do I swim the channel? And I ended up speaking to this guy who became one of my inspirations, a guy called John Conningham Rolls, who runs this swim tour company called Swim Quest. And I remember having a conversation with him over the phone. And I just, at that point, I had no idea what was involved. And he sort of said, so I said, well, can you swim? Can you do the crawl? He said. And I was like, well, I can sort of do the crawl, but I'd rather do it breaststroke. And I remember him saying, well, if you can do it breaststroke, you're going to be in for 10 hours longer than if you do the crawl. And I was like, 10 hours longer? How long does this thing take? And he said, well, on average, it takes 15 hours. And I'm like, 15 hours, and then I remember saying to him, well, at least when I get to France, I can get out and I can stay in a nice hotel and have croissants for breakfast. And he was like, you don't stay in France, touch the sand and get on the boat and come back. And it was just and also another thing that came out of that conversation was realizing that you couldn't wear a wetsuit if you want to be an official channel swimmer, because Captain Matthew Webb, who first swam the channel in 1875, didn't wear a wetsuit. So now, in order to be classified as an official channel swimmer, and so like and then what I didn't realize until actually, and at this point I was having conversations with people, I hadn't even got into the water, and then the first time I got into cold water, below swimming pool temperature, and I realized I couldn't even swim for 10 minutes, let alone 15 hours, and I couldn't even do the crawl at that point, everything was just there was so much learning ahead of me. So yeah, I think that, and then I would just say about the swimming community is that whilst they were all really skeptical at the beginning and a bit nonplussed, as I said, and a bit sort of reserved, gradually they saw that I was serious, and then I have to say I did get the most amazing support ever. I've always been, and I'm known as the sort of black sheep of the swimming community, because I did hate the train. I mean, I would just complain about the training bitterly. It was just the only good thing I could see about it. I mean, I do feel a bit bad saying all this to you, because you're probably one of these people who loves the water, and I do love the water.
Yeah.
I have my very special love for the water, and we might come on and talk about that. But there is nothing about it that I find easy at all.
Gosh, okay, so many things to think about. So I guess your book, which is how I found you, one of my previous guests, Melanie Tyrell, sent this on to me, which is so amazing to me that someone in England said she had shipped it back with a friend of hers to Florida sent it back with her because she was over there visiting, and then she mailed it to me. And I just poured over it, and I had a big swim in Lake Tahoe in it was last month about this time. It was the 13th of July. I can't believe it's only been a month. It feels like 2 months or 6. But the words, so you interviewed all of these women in this book, and maybe you want to tell us a little bit about maybe what you're willing to tell about the idea for the book. I don't want to take words out of your mouth or overtell.
Well, having said all these things about how hard swimming the channel was, the one thing that I found out that seemed to be the silver lining was that it's a license to eat, right?
Yes, which I love, because I love eating.
I mean, so I ought to sort of declare my unadulterated joy in life is food. But I've also, like many women, I had a complex relationship with food, and I write about this in the book, I write about the schizophrenia of sort of living 10 years wanting to get fat because I wanted to get pregnant, but also wanting to get thin because, that's what we're told that we need to be as women. So the one redeeming thing about swimming the channel seemed to me to be it was a license to eat, because you can't wear a wetsuit. So the only way to sort of keep warm is a bit of, as I say, human padding. So I then had this idea that I would write to 21 women, 21 being the number of miles from England to France. So, and the ultimate sort of title of my book, but that I would write to 21 women to ask if they would meet and eat with me to help me get fat, to swim the channel, and answer the question, does motherhood make you happy? Because obviously, I'd come to this journey out of my fertility story, and I was trying to work out what to do next. I'd been through 11 rounds of unsuccessful IVF, and I wanted to work out, did I need to find some way of becoming a mother? Did I need to consider egg donation, surrogacy, adoption, fostering, or could I have a fulfilling life without children? And I met the most amazing women from all, walks of life, professors and baronesses. And I had the sort of thing that everyone that I met were, they'd done something amazing. They've got a Wikipedia site. Some of them are household names. Some are people who've just done something quietly amazing. And I had the most amazing response. Nearly everyone I approached said yes. I think they just thought, who is this woman? This mad woman. Because I'd written my first book by then, which is called The Pursuit of Motherhood, which was about my treatment journey. So who is this woman? And I ran a big theatre in London, a theatre, like a theatre where people perform. I always say, rather than an operating theatre. And so that, who is this woman who runs this big theatre in London and has been through 11 rounds of unsuccessful IVF and now is swimming the channel and wants to meet and eat with me? And so I think they just thought that I must be some like weird person, which I am. It is true. And so they all said yes, and it was just the most amazing. Well, the majority of them said yes, and just the most amazing journey. That was amazing journey too. And yeah, we spoke about motherhood, and we also spoke about water and swimming and all sort of, life, really basic life as a woman in the 21st century, basically. And it was amazing.
Yeah, as I mentioned when I reached out to you, I had a different journey and a different outcome, but there was this one sentence, if I can read just one sentence.
Cool.
I can find it quickly, but I mean, there was many things about it that super jumped out at me, but there was, I guess maybe I should paraphrase my journey a little bit. We did throughout the, like, let's have a baby, throughout the birth control, and just decide just to go for it. And years started ticking by, and we weren't necessarily, I wasn't inclined to have for intervention. I'm kind of, I'm inclined for like medical intervention, something I kind of avoid anyway. I don't know if it's the American medical system or what. Anyway, I just kind of avoid it. So didn't really know if there was a problem or not, but wasn't really having any luck when I finally did, or like right away, when I finally get the whole, timing down, and you learn like things I just hadn't learned as a child, which I thought was really weird, that no one had ever explained to me about cycles, like details of it. So that was an interesting journey in itself. And then finally get pregnant, things seem like they're going smashingly. And then unexpected water break, no reason, don't know why. Had to have it labor induced at 21 weeks, baby's stillborn, and then just trying to live with this loss. And even though it wasn't like I hadn't gone to the fertility specialist yet, but I ended up doing that later on, and then trying to get my head around, like, okay, like just like the way that you write about it, it's like you think it's like this given, you throw away the birth control, then you get pregnant, and then you have a baby, and then you go on with your life. and for it to like deal with this loss right away, and then ultimately ended up having another miscarriage. And then but I around that same time I had fell in love with open water swimming, and really wanted to start pushing myself into marathon distances and things like that, because I was just captivated the first time I saw someone swim like 10 miles. I was just like, wow, people do that. I mean, and I knew about the English Channel from being a kid and whatever, but I didn't realize like that there was just people that were like, oh, hey, I'm going to go swim 10 miles today. So I immediately started jumping into this marathon swimming thing. And so trying to, through this whole fertility game of like trying to have a baby and like trying to balance this, it's like, how much do I swim? Do I not swim? Do I restrain from swimming? And then after I had those 2 baby losses and was still trying to get pregnant, I finally just decided, like, I don't, like, you talk about like realizing there's something greater out there determining this, and like it's not going to matter. So I was like, I'm doing it. I like set up my biggest year yet. And what you had said in here was, I have an idea about how swimming the channel might help me decide what to do next in my pursuit of motherhood. Besides, I can always cancel the booking if the baby does decide to arrive. And that's kind of what I did. Like that sense was just like, because I was just like, maybe I get pregnant, maybe I lose the maybe I don't, but I am gonna swim.
And I think, thank you for sharing that. And because I know, like we were talking about this before, weren't we? That it never leaves you, these feelings. But I it's really interesting you picked out. I was wondering obviously what line you were going to pick out, and it's really interesting because I think that like we put our lives on hold, um, for like those of us who are trying to create the family, and you imagine, and I think that really, I mean, like, God, I can't imagine going through the loss that you've been through. I mean, I had miscarriages, but they were early, and an ectopic pregnancy that was at 3 months. But yeah, and I know many people who've been through stillbirth, and it's just tragic. But I think you put your whole life on hold, and you're living in limbo. You're not sure if you're ever going to be able, what your life is going to look like, or if you're going to be happy with it, going to be able to be happy. And I think, like for me, and it sounds like for you, like the moment that I thought I started to swim, like there was something else in my life, and and I could just focus on that and like let go a little bit of the reins that I was holding on everything else, or the tension. And it was just transformational for me. It sounds like it was for you as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What's been interesting to me, and what I like, this is why, well, a million reasons I love the book so much, but like how much I wanted to hold on to it. Like as soon as I had my son, I was like, okay, when can I go train for the next thing? And that was what was kind of beautiful to me about how when you talk to these women, that you find out like that it's just a part of your life. It isn't your life. And that was the question I didn't know I had. Like I just was just kind of following this desire and trying to get the support I needed to, like, now I have to have someone to watch. I call it my, your land support. The person that greets you on the beach is the person that watches your kids, and trying to get everything in line to still make it happen. But yeah, I thought that was the way that you approached that. And in talking to all those women, like it was just so fulfilling for me to realize like, oh, this is, natural. And it's not that I don't want to be a mom to my kids,
No.
or that I couldn't be a better mom or whatever. Like it's just that you get to do all these things.
Yeah, you need other things, don't you, in your life,
Yeah.
like whether you have kids or whether you're on the journey to try and have kids,
Yeah.
you need to focus on project you as well as project baby or project family, project mother,
Yeah.
I that's one of the things that all the women I met really taught me. Yeah.
I'm curious, this just kind of popped in my head, is like, I'm wondering if it was like, for me, motherhood seemed like it was this all consuming thing, maybe because that's like how I was kind of raised. Like my mom was with us at home until like 7, whatever, we were in first grade, and then she went off to work again. So I'm wondering if it, like, was it similar for you, like that you like, I mean, how did we get the idea even that motherhood is like it should be a thing, and that we set so much on it?
I'm reading a book at the moment where How to Fail by Elizabeth Day, where she taught, and she's had troubles conceiving as well, and she talks about exactly that, which is she talks about the fact that she's come from a generation where women were told that they could sort of have it all, but also our role models were our mothers, who were, had been educated but were still the main, and may have jobs but were still the main caregivers at home. I mean, I think, and that creates, like complicated feelings. But I mean, I also come to the conclusion in my book that people want to be parents for all sorts of reasons. I always think it's funny when I meet, like I was walking with someone at the weekend just gone, this is why it's fresh in my mind, a man who said that he hadn't had children, and he said, oh, I was too selfish, I didn't, and I said, you're wrong. Like, people who want children are just as selfish as people who don't want children, because we have children for selfish reasons as well, because we want to live our childhoods again, because we want to we feel that our life isn't going to be fulfilled unless we have that in our life. So I think people come to to parenthood for all sorts of different reasons. And but then often find that actually it doesn't fulfill every need that you have as an individual. So yeah, you have to go and find that
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
be full, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, maybe no matter how you, well, yeah. So wondering the people who, yeah, I don't know. Big question, right? How to Fail. Who is that author of that?
It is a big question.
Who is the author of How to Fail?
Oh, it's a woman called Elizabeth Day.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out.
Great book.
I what go ahead.
Yeah, it's great. She also has a podcast called the How to Fail podcast. I mean,
Oh,
it's been huge over here. Yeah. And she interviews famous people about the ways that they failed in their life and what they've learned through failure.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
But it's funny actually, but linking that to like I feel like I know a lot about failure, having been through, like many things, but the big thing was 11 rounds of unsuccessful IVF. And then I think, like the fact that I wrote, I don't know if you remember, I write about this in the book, the terrible moment in a way of my channel journey was when I realized that trying to swim the channel was just like going through IVF.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically it didn't matter how hard I trained. And, obviously I've talked already about like what a big journey I had to go. Like I had to learn how to swim. I had to learn how to deal with the cold water. But I realized it didn't matter how hard I trained, but success was no guarantee.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the sea decides whether you can cross her. And when I realized that, it was terrifying to me because I'd been through so much failure. And I just suddenly realized that I was facing something that was out of my control, that failure that was out of my control, and I was facing something again that was out of my control. But I think, therefore, the fact that I swam it, and I do always feel like the sea allowed me to swim her. It wasn't that I'm not some, like superhuman, even though I know that swimming the channel is really hard. She allowed me to swim her. And the fact she did was, it has become sort of part of this conversation I've now subsequently feel that I've been having with nature, and has become so significant to my life, which is why the water, even now, I'm not, I mean, I have done some more marathon swims, but I at the moment, I just get in for like 10 minutes. And even that brings everything back. It's like a union with the, with the sea, with the water, that gave me the success of swimming across when I just needed it so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's funny. I turned 50 at the end of last year, and my niece asked me, because I asked lots of people for sort of new challenges to take on in this decade of my life, and everyone gave me challenges that really, really simple, low-key challenges, because I've done quite a lot of big challenges. And my niece gave me, Jessica, write down the 50 best memories of your life. And number one is, without doubt, the journey to swim the channel and reaching the other side. That is how like significant it is.
Yeah. The word that I've started, I mean, I touch on this maybe in some of my other podcasts, but it's the surrender. You have to surrender to the day and to the conditions. And I think it's an interesting aspect. I think I mentioned it with someone I was interviewing a few weeks ago, and she's like, well, I don't really have, like, for her, it wasn't a thing. But I think for some people, like, who want to be in control of their life. And you kind of
Yeah,
touch on that personality type. Maybe you can speak to a little bit about that personality type and if it's evolved or changed.
it's definitely, yeah, I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I still struggle with perfectionist tendencies. Um, and I don't know like whether I'll ever fully not, like because even in the imperfect life, I try to create perfection, like I.e. an imperfect perfect. Um, but if that makes sense. But yeah, I definitely feel that the water, swimming, marathon swimming, has taught me so much about acceptance and recognizing that you can't control. And that has, and it absolutely, I mean, I'm the first person to say, I went through 11 rounds of unsuccessful IVF, and I didn't end up with a miracle baby, and I am childless still. And I'm never getting over that, just in the same way that I don't think you'll ever get over your stillbirth, even though you've gone on to have children. But that I'm never getting over that. I'm never wishing that it wasn't different. I wish it was. But I sort of feel now that I can appreciate the good things in my life. And obviously swimming is like right up there. And will, like, to the end of my life, it'll just always, and it's mine. I think that's the other thing. I don't know if you feel this, like it's all mine, like the swim, the training, the me in the water. It's not something I have to I mean, I do share it with the community of people that supported me to get across. Of course, it's a team effort, and I'm so grateful to them. And also now in writing the book, sharing my story with people and talking to people. But like, there's a place where this is just mine, and it's pure and perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the water's taught me so much about like the things that you can't control, and acceptance, and love, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that pride and that ownership of that accomplishment, I think that's a big driver for, well, I know for me, and a couple other people I've talked to have mentioned that as well, just that's something that you will always have done. You'll always be able to look back, and you will always be able to carry it with you. And like you said, like it's perfect. It's exactly what it was at the time, and you get to accept it. It's better than a child, because you don't have to worry about it abandoning you when it's a teenager and talking back. And
Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly. And also it's hard. I mean, do you find swimming hard? I mean, you said you perhaps not. Like,
I try to teach it to be as easy as possible, and I find it easy. I find it, I guess I talk about it as like when you can get the perfect body position. I don't think everyone has necessarily been taught for it to be easy, but I think that there's opportunity for it to
yeah,
be easy with the right instruction.
yeah.
Um,
But even do you feel even marathon swimming in cold water?
no, I think that like the getting in the cold water every time is hard for sure. And it's hard to convince myself to get there to do it. Like I said before, I'm super spoiled. I have an endless pool in my backyard. I'm embarrassed to say I don't get in every day. I don't always even get in 3 times a week. And it's right there. It stares at me in the face and it says, "Why aren't you in me?" But it's hard. It's hard. So I get that for sure. And I admire anybody who goes to swim every single day. And now I can chalk it up to, oh, well, I've got kids and I have this and I have that, and I can make myself busy. But the social reasons are, I do it more for the social reasons. And then with marathon swimming, I think it's the experience.
Yeah,
But I feel like I limp along a little on the journey. People talk so much about embracing the journey, but I feel like I'm like, it's a little bit like pulling teeth and pulling teeth, but then I can like settle in and I have this amazing experience. I guess the journey of the swim is
yeah,
is different for me than like the journey of the training. It feels a little bit
yeah,
excruciating
yeah,
getting through
yeah,
it.
yeah. So everyone maybe has their different hard thing, yeah. But I think that I remember in my book, I don't know if you remember, I speak to Professor Susan Greenfield, and she says to, and I'm asking her what happiness is, and she says happiness is doing something hard and achieving it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really resonated with me, because I think for me, one of the reasons why this swim has become so significant is that it was so hard for me in so many ways, not just starting from like knowing nothing to then the training to then the swim itself, and of course, having to face that the success was out of my control, but doing something really hard and achieving it is, I think, why it's so important. It's been so important to me. Yeah. And I think it, and it is, well, you might have different hard things, but within that, but yeah, I think it is hard.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting though, like part of my journey of creating marathon swim stories was to find out, like if there's other people that approach it the same way as I do. I used to always ask the question, are you a process or an outcome person? And it was always kind of interesting because there's some people out there who are like, oh, I just love the process. I love swimming every day. I love creating the spreadsheet of the training plan. And like, I like to create the training plan, but adhering to it. I set the non-negotiables for myself. That's that's how I get through it. It's like
good. Yeah. I think it's so funny. Like, I have this thing, which I have this dilemma, which is that as the water gets colder in the winter, you can't swim as long. So that's good. Because but it's colder, that's not good. So you have to, like, it's always this sort of balance. And then when this is in training, and then when this water starts getting warmer, that's better because the water's warmer, but then you have to swim
longer. Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know which I prefer. But I actually think I prefer the cold water swimming shorter. I have this again, another chapter in my book where I talk about this 10 minutes feels like 10 out, like the first 10 minutes in cold water is the hardest, like, and then the longer you're in that, I mean, I don't know if you feel this, that the longer you're swimming, I mean, this must be some sort of phenomenon, that the time goes more quickly, you feel the cold less, so yeah, you just got to keep going and know that you're getting to a better place. But the first 10 minutes is just terrible.
I think the first 10 minutes getting in, but also like setting out on that, 5-hour swim, the first 10 minutes, you're just like, oh, or even first like half hour. But then the time just kind of speeds up.
Yeah, and then it speeds up. Yeah.
It is an interesting phenomena. As one of the people I was interviewing was talking about how for her, she wants to like stop time. Like that was one of the things she wants to achieve. She's getting ready to swim around Manhattan. And I thought that was interesting. Like people talk a lot about like not having electronic devices and like being able to leave all that stuff outside and like just being able to just be with themselves and their thoughts and like really appreciating that. And there's aspects of that I enjoy, but I spend a lot of time with my thoughts. I'm not like an extrovert. I'm not always out talking to people. So getting in the pool is like, okay. And then I get to stuck with my thoughts some more for me personally. But I really like this idea though of like, I liked how she was talking about stopping time. I don't think I feel it the same way, but I could see how for some people like that could really something that
but I think like so she was saying that she likes to be with her thoughts in
she was just saying for her when she gets into swim it kind of stops time, like you just like all of a sudden every minute you can feel every second and every and you like it just everything just kind of stretches out, especially when you're really into it for a while. Things just kind of really stretch
and then
out.
she's thinking, and that gives her thinking. That's the thing that I didn't quite understand, and that gives her thinking time, and she likes that, because my response to that is that I don't think I can't think when I'm all I'm thinking is this is terrible, this is cold, how long have I been here, like that, like counting, I might count, like I asked every woman that I met to give me a word. I mean, even like to take on my channel swim, I mean, I was like hours in before I remembered those words and started reciting them to myself. Like I find it really difficult to think when I'm in the water, but I mean, I suppose that then becomes a form of meditation, because obviously when you're meditating you're not supposed to think, are you? So yes, that's probably quite good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I love those words. I brought them with me to Tahoe for I
Oh,
was
you
20,
said,
yeah,
yeah.
26 miles, and I gave them to my crew because I wasn't able to, because I can't keep my thoughts straight or anything. The only thing I can think about when I swim is my technique. So I focus on my little aspects of my technique. But I
Yeah.
gave those to my crew, and she periodically would pull up a word from the book, and it was wonderful to be able to just kind of dive back and to try to remember who it was that said it, whatever, it gave me just broke things up.
You did 26 miles across. How long did that take? I don't want to know because you're probably doing like someone
It was, yeah.
Go on then, tell me, make me feel bad.
No, I don't want to make you feel bad. It doesn't, it's well, and it's not choppy and you don't have a current. I mean, the lake, I was Lake Tahoe's, it's different. It's a different beast swimming in lakes. I'm still working up to swimming in the sea. When I
Right.
first when I did my first like 10 miles in a lake, I was like, okay, if I can do 10 miles, like I could think about the English Channel was kind of the way I was thinking about it. But I was like, but that means I have to get to England, and then I might not you have to wait for the weather window. And then it's not really, I mean, it's never a sure thing, but it's a surer thing when it's a lake because it's,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
in America in the West where we are now, we have fires. And that is actually changing a lot of people's swims this year, unfortunately. But it's, anyway, I hope to do the English Channel someday. I've
Tell
said it,
me,
said it out.
yeah, well, I love you too, and I'll be there waving you off or supporting you on your swim. It would be an honor. But has 26 miles, how long? You can't get away with not answering the question.
15 hours.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it was fun. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day out for sure.
Incredible.
So you still swim? You've kept it going. You said it's hard, but you keep swimming.
One of my proudest things at the moment. So I live on the edge of Hampstead Heath in London, and we have like a series of ponds that you can swim in on the heath, tiny. And I think of you in Lake Tahoe, me in the pond. We have a mixed pond, a men's pond, and a ladies' pond. And I've been taking my 89-year-old mother to the mixed pond over the summer. And we're like the comedy duo at the pond. But I'm just so, we get in and we do, like do 5 or 10 minutes, but that's all I'm sort of really doing at the moment. I'm just so proud of her.
That's wonderful. What a gift.
With her. Yeah. And I mean, she's always swum a bit through my, I mean, I didn't get my open water swimming from her particularly, but she's always sort of been quite hardy, but I'm just so proud of her at the moment. That's my joy at the moment.
That's wonderful. And you also started tackling mountains. Tell us a little bit about that, and especially I'm interested in like the like what's carried over and what's completely different.
Oh, right, yes. Well, so when I swam the channel in 2015, everybody said to me, we're just warning you that you are now going to get depressed. And I was like, what? I think it's just been the most amazing thing in my life, get depressed. But of course they're right, because, you've had this focus for several years, and then it's happened, and it's this amazing climax, and then it is an anticlimax. And they said, don't, whatever you do, think about any sort of other challenge immediately. You've just got to sort of process what you've been through. Within 2 weeks, I booked to climb Kilimanjaro at Christmas, because I just needed something else. And it was amazing. It was like the complete sort of antithesis of like having your head in dark, cold water, having your head to the sky and the snow. And that was the start of what became a journey to become the first woman to achieve the Pond Peak Challenge, which is to swim the English Channel and climb Mount Everest. I knew nothing about climbing mountains. I mean, I just like laugh when I think of myself on Kilimanjaro. because like I didn't even know what poles were, I didn't even have a proper rucksack, like it was like it's same, like as me starting out on the channel. And it's been a huge journey. And I think the Pond Peak, in fact, another man has just achieved the Pond Peak. So I think about 11 men have done it, but no women have done it. It's been a really long, hard journey because I was supposed to go to Everest in 2020. The mountain was shut down because of COVID. I did end up going this year, but unfortunately, it was just disastrous. We had several cyclones, and then I got a chest infection, and then
Oh no.
our whole expedition got shut down because our Sherpa team got COVID. But
Oh
it was
no.
also totally life-changing, in another, and also I really do want to go back. And the record, I mean, somebody else might get the record before me, but the record is still there. And what I say about it is the differences and similarities. The differences are like, there are so many more elements in climbing mountains, like there's this survival at altitude, high mountains, survival at altitude, the equipment, the technical side of it, as well as the endurance. But like, I think there's nothing harder than getting into cold water wearing a swimming costume. Like I always say, yeah, but I'm never cold. Like I can wear clothes on the but I think in some respects, and also because I'm getting older, like the fitness is harder now, and there have been so many elements to contend with. But where it's totally the same, and where it's become part of my sort of life's journey, is that mountains are like the sea. They will decide. Nature decides whether you can climb a mountain or swim a sea. And so, of course, this time, nature decided that I wasn't going to climb the mountain. Well, lots of us were not going to climb the mountain this year. Not, partly to do with the weather, but also to do with COVID. That's the big similarity, and that's why it's been, again, such an important journey that I do really hope to complete. But I say I'm not going to have another IVF, 11 rounds, 11 attempts, no summit. I just think I've come back now knowing what is involved in climbing that mountain. And I can some things that I want to do to get better and stronger. And yeah, I love the journey. I love the journey. I love the journey of swimming the channel. I love the journey of climbing Everest. And it is about the journey, but as I say to everyone, it's also about the destination. It is also about the destination. And the destination is the thing that, certainly was what made reaching France was what made the journey so incredibly special. So I do want to have another chance if I can, whilst also knowing that it's been amazing to this point, and I wouldn't change anything, even not getting to the top this year.
When do you think, so you said you're not going to do the 11 rounds of IVF version of Everest. When do you think then you've tried the best that you can?
I don't know. I'm hesitant about going, well, I'm going to try one more time, and if I don't make it, that's it, because it is there's things that are out of your control. So I just don't think that's respecting the mountain to put times on. But one of the things that I've learned about, because I do a lot of campaigning around fertility, is that what is not understood is that IVF isn't a one cycle treatment. Most people have to go through more rounds of IVF than one to be successful. And that's why, certainly in the UK, we have a regulator of fertility treatment that recommends that people go through 3 rounds of treatment. And so, but going through 11 rounds of treatment is at the extreme end of the scale. And I just think that I want to learn from that experience that sometimes it is right to try things more than once. but it isn't right to go to the extreme. Like, and that's not to say that I don't think it was right, it was wrong for me to do 11 rounds of IVF. That was what I did. But I think I've learned, like, life is a process of learning, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think, like, I hope that that I know that I have at least one more attempt in Everest. It feels right. And I hope that I will also know when the mountain says enough, because also, I'm 50 and I'm not the oldest woman to climb Everest, but I am one of the oldest women on Everest at the moment, and nearly the oldest British woman to be attempting it. And swimming's a bit different, I think, in that respect.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about open water swimming. So I hope you'll
Yes,
keep up with
definitely. Definitely. And of course, like, you can climb mountains at any age, but like and in a way, one of the big things that I learned, even though there were lots of things out of my control this year, was that I'd sort of relied a bit on my strength, my mental strength, because everyone always says, oh, like, these big endurance marathon challenges, it's 80% mental and 20% physical. And I always say it's a bit more complicated than that, because it depends who you are. Because I am really strong mentally. Clearly, you don't go through 11 rounds of IVF in the channel if you're not, like, that isn't my weakness. Like, I'm not really physically fit, and I'm not, like, I haven't got an aptitude for these sports. I haven't been doing them all my life. So what I need to do, I've sort of just got back into I got a bit into my comfort zone over the last year, and COVID didn't help, and so I just sort of trained within my comfort zone, and I've got to get out of it. And that, and we were talking about this before we started recording, weren't we? That like, because I've done the channel now, people think you're something that you're not, like that you're like, you're some sort of super person. And I'm really not. I'm just an ordinary person. And I think, and people say to me, oh, I could never swim the channel, I could never attempt Everest. I go, of course you could, if you really want to do it, like, and you can achieve it if you really want it. But you also have to recognize where your weaknesses are and really work at them. And I learned this year that I need to do a little bit more on my weakness. And that was also why it was sort of really the right outcome. And my weakness is, like, I need to get fitter. I can go on forever, but I need to get fitter and faster.
Yeah. I love that part, the part of your book where you wrote the little training plan, because it was so perfect. It's like exactly what I guess I would have written for you, because it really did it. You were like, okay, my weakness is cold, so you put that in your plan, and and I need to swim with these people. And that's exactly how a training plan should be. It's not like you should go download one from the internet. Like, that's why having a coach is super handy, or a community of people that can help you.
Definitely. And also being honest with yourself
Oh
about
gosh, yeah.
where you have to do the stuff that you don't like.
Yeah, and having, I guess, you need an objective person to help you identify those. Whether, like, that's why getting into a situation where you're swimming with well supported with people that can help you be like, oh, okay, let's work on this, Jessica, or whatever. So that's
having a good coach is, so I'm going to join a high altitude gym. That's my new plan.
Oh, cool. Neat.
And get fit.
It's always that easy, right? That get fit, check. That's what we want to do.
done that.
Well, I could talk to you all day, but I want to just ask one more question, if you'll allow me with time. Okay. You had a chapter called Optimist or Pessimist, because you were booking the optimist, right? How's that?
Optimist, yeah.
Yeah. Has your perspective changed at all after this journey? Do you still consider, because you considered yourself a pessimist in that?
Yeah, such a great question. Like, you can't, like, there are some things that you can't fundamentally change, like, and I talked about perfectionism. Like, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a pessimist, I think those things are fundamentally me. But what I've realized is that, and I really mean this, that life is still beautiful and wonderful in its imperfection. And even when your pessimism is proved true, and part of the reason for my pessimism is because I don't want to be disappointed.
Exactly. Yeah.
um,
I could
I'm trying to protect myself from disappointment, and I have had a lot of disappointment in my life, and I continue to have disappointment. I've spoken really positively about like not summiting Everest this year, but clearly that's another disappointment.
Yeah.
But I definitely do feel that there are amazing things to come when life doesn't go how you dreamt it would or how you planned it would, and when your pessimism is proved true. But what you have to do is do the work to create new opportunities that you can be pessimistic about. But sometimes, wonderful things happen.
Yeah, being optimistic enough to create the opportunities, right?
Yeah, exactly. Beautifully put. Optimistic enough to create that's beautiful. I couldn't have put it better. That is beautiful. I'm going to take that and steal it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I think I am that. I'm optimistic enough to keep creating the opportunities. That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Yeah.
My little gift to you for your
Thank
gift of
you.
healing to some degree for me with the book.
I'm so happy. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you. It
Thank you
means
so
so much.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Where can we find you? I'll put some links and stuff on your page.
Yeah, like Google me, but my website is like jessicahepburn.com, www.jessicahepburn.com, and everything is there.
Everything is there. So much. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Do you want to take Marathon Swim Stories with you? Subscribe on your favorite podcast provider. Want to connect with like-minded limit pushers? Join us for Marathon Swim Stories live on Tuesdays at 5:30 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, 13:30 GMT. Thanks for watching.